So if we just talk quickly about the muscles that we're referring to, your pelvic floor has 3 different layers of muscles. There's an outer layer which is running front to back, and this is the layer that sort of wraps around the urethral sphincters, the vagina if you have a pelvis that was born with a uterus, and it wraps around the anal sphincters in the back. And for the record, yes, those pelvises that were born with penises do have the same layers available. They just don't have the space for the vagina in the middle. So we have a surface layer running front to back. We have a middle layer that is actually going side to side, running between the 2 sitting bones and connecting up to a fascial sheath in the front. And in fact, where those 2 layers intersect is what gets referred to as the perineum. It's the area between, for the pelvises born with uteruses, it is the area between the vagina and the anus. And for those pelvises born with penises, it is between the urethra and the anus, so theirs is a little longer. That's our first 2 layers. And so those sort of form a triangle up in the front part of the pelvis. You could think of it from the sitting bones up to the pubic bone. And then if we go really deep, and you may or may not be able to see this, but there is another layer of muscle inside which runs again front to back all the way around. And this one is the one that actually connects to support the internal organs. It actually wraps around the anal sphincter as well. This one's called the levator ani. Again, you're an anatomy geek like me. But this is the deepest layer, and deepest in this case means farthest up into the body because we're talking about superficial versus closer to the center. Now, why mention this? Why make a big deal? Why have a whole model with a pelvic floor on it? Well, because these muscles are the bottom of the soda can. And in fact, this model is inaccurate in one very specific way. This shows the pelvic floor is like a hammock. There's a reason I call it a trampoline. Your pelvic floor does not actually drop down. Your pelvic floor domes up. It is like a concave dome that mirrors the dome of your abdominal diaphragm. Why does my model show it the other way? Because all anatomy models are based on cadavers, and when the body dies, the pelvic diaphragm collapses. You are not deceased, therefore your pelvic floor is still going up, which makes a lot more sense when we think about how the pelvic floor's design is to push the organs up. And so that's its job, is to lift and support and be kind of there. And hi, how are you? Oh, I got you there, bladder, you're not going to fall. Hi, uterus, I'm there. During labor, during birth, it is these muscles that not only must release to allow the baby to come down, they're also responsible for guiding the head to rotate through the pelvis. The relative tone on the right and the left side of your pelvic floor can have a dramatic impact on not only your overall core strength, but in fact, how your body responds to the labor process and how it responds postpartum. And postpartum can be especially interesting because where your pelvis might have been very used to, your pelvic floor might have been very good in holding up, and yes, I got you, I'm good. Well, after you've given birth, the body has gone through such a dramatic change, and the amount of intra-abdominal pressure has changed so much because there was a baby in there, and now there isn't, that the pelvic floor can actually be left going, where'd the weight go? I'm supposed to hold something, but I don't know what, and I've spent the last 6 months at least holding on to something, and now I don't know where I'm supposed to hold, and it can lead to asymmetries in how things are working.